If you want to save time and still get accurate results, then partner with 4 Pillars Research, proud sponsors of PI Perspectives. We specialize in uncovering insurance policies that can make or break your case. From identifying unknown policies to uncovering accurate policy information, we streamline the process so you can focus on your case. Partner with 4 Pillars Research and unlock the full potential of your investigations. Visit researchfpr.com to learn more.
Private investigators, are you spending hours digging through online data? There's a better way. Scope Now is your all-in-one OSINT platform, automating the collection and analysis of publicly available information so you get results faster. Workbench helps you uncover key details on individuals and businesses. Link analysis connects the dots between entities, and PreCheck flags potential risks in seconds. Plus, with Grid, you'll get real-time intelligence alerts, keeping you ahead of emerging threats. Stop the manual searching. Let Scope Now do the heavy lifting. Learn more at scopenow.com. Do you enjoy our podcast and the guests we bring you? Since 2019, Matt and his team have done their very best to give you amazing shows each week. If you feel like our show has helped you to be a better investigator, or maybe even inspired you to become an investigator, please let us know. We're looking for testimonials. Drop Matt an email with a recorded 20 to 30 seconds of you talking about this podcast. You can also email him something verbal about the website. His email is matthew.s@satellitepi.com. And if you really feel blessed for having this content, consider supporting Matt and our show by joining Investigators Toolbox. You really have to see version 2.0. And at just 49 cents a day, it's a no-brainer. We're proud to announce a partnership with InvestigatorConference.com. This free site tracks all the live events in the industry. Want to plan out your travel schedule to see what events are happening in the next few months? Are you hosting an event? Send them an email to add the date. Visit the site today. That's investigator-conference.com. Investigator-conference.com. Welcome to the next episode of PI Perspectives. Back on the podcast, forensic digital expert Rob Freed. Rob's a guy you reach out to when you need a phone or computer analyzed. He's written books and does a great symposium every year with Dr. Henry Lee. This is an informative episode. Let's jump right in. So please welcome Rob Freed and your host, New York private investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today we're having a guest we haven't had on in a while. I like to call him like the tech guru, the guy who knows everything about cell phone forensics. And whenever I get a question from any of my clients on what I can and can't get off a phone, I reach out to my buddy, Rob Freed. Rob, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much for having me again, Matt.
Yeah, always, man. It's always great to chat with you and figure out forensically what's going on and what's the latest and greatest. I think probably the latest and greatest with you is that you got a new job. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, I have been fortunate enough to have opportunities to always lead teams. In my previous role, I built a lab, and that was a big venture for doing that during COVID in New York City. And I got approached again to build up a forensics practice for another e-discovery company. It's been around for about 20 years. They're based out of Nashville. I'm not moving to Nashville anytime soon, but I'm working from my new home office. So this is a nice, way for me to continue to do what I love, be at home, but also build again, which I really enjoyed. And in the last few weeks that I've been here, it's been using my experience, my connections, and things like that to get off the ground at this point. And it's been a really fun few weeks.
Yeah, that's always exciting, man. When you start a new project, a new thing, just to put your own stamp on it, especially when you have the leeway to really go after your vision, what you the beliefs that you have of what's going to work the best, and just giving being given the green light to go ahead and do that. It's very
Yeah.
exciting for you.
And a lot of that, and a lot of the excitement for me is the support I have, from people in the industry that have known me a long time. Obviously, family, because it's a very important decision to make a move. But it's also the confidence in knowing what I've been able to achieve previously, being able to do it again, working with a very talented team, of course, but continuing to put good thought leadership out there,
Mhm.
and best practices are always leveraged. And this is a team that really sees me as somebody who can come in and offer great service to their existing client base, hopefully bring in some new clients. And again, great group of people. I've been super impressed with everybody on the team.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about best practices. It's so important when you're talking about e-discovery and things that could potentially end up as evidence in court. Just making sure, however you're collecting that data, what it's being used for, like the life cycle from point A to point B, that you're holding yourself to the higher standards on this stuff, because you
Yes.
could and probably will be called to task to how you got to a particular point with an issue that you're working on, right?
Absolutely. The last few times I've testified, a majority of the time that the opposing is spending with me is chain of custody. How did I get access to the information? What is it that I've done? What specific tools did I use? Am I using best practices? Am I validating what I'm doing? Um, Chain of custody is huge. And, I remember meeting people sometimes in some meetings, and some of the people are just walking around with stuff in their briefcase. They said, hey, if you want to talk to me about that case that you mentioned to me a few minutes ago, I'm around tomorrow. They're like, oh, I have that stuff in my bag. So it was I'm somebody who will try to you know basically uh, tell them what I would recommend and use best practices even for evidence handling, because any which way people are able to look at what you've done, they're going to try to poke holes. And so you always want to use best practices and be flexible to some extent. But
Right.
I always say, no chain of custody, no evidence.
Sure.
So you always have to make sure that you're documenting all along the way.
Yeah, you don't want to have all that hard work go out the window because somebody made a mistake. I mean, I go back to my days at John Jay College, which was more than a couple of years, so way back then. And I had a forensics class. It was the first time I'd ever taken a forensic science class, and on my final, I got my paper back or my project back, and I got a B on it, and I was pissed. I was really
Yeah,
pissed. I was like, why am I getting a B on this? Or maybe it was a B plus or something. I'm like, this thing was flawless. It was perfect. I did everything you asked me to do and more. Right. I go talk to the professor. I'm like, what's to do with the grade? And she was like, well, you got a chain of custody issue. I said, what are you talking about? She's like, you didn't seal this particular document properly.
yeah,
You sealed it with tape, but you didn't do it the way it was supposed to be done. And man, in all my careers now, I never make that mistake again.
that's right.
Anytime I got to go seal something,
That's right.
I'm keeping those tape companies in business.
Yeah.
uh,
One of the
good
things
lesson.
that I always tell, and I build teams. So one of the things that I always tell my team members is this, we're getting paid to do a job, right? Sometimes we're getting paid with stuff that's in the news and everything else, but we are getting paid to come in and provide a service. You have to focus in on what you're doing. A lot of things that we work off of are digital these days. Digital forms. Send me your chain of custody form. I'm going to send it to you, print it out, put your name on it, send it back.
Right.
Sometimes the forms that we use are all fillable PDFs. I tell my team, print up the forms. Make sure that when you're filling them out, fill them out with your handwriting. focus in on it, because when something's there in front of you, you're able to pay attention. When I'm typing and somebody else is maybe sending me an email or sending me a chat message or something like that, it can distract you. And you don't want anything that's going to break your focus, because what's happening right now is something that you may, to your point, have to speak about. No matter what level you are within an organization or a team, you're part of that chain of tasks that was done.
Sure.
uh, you can be called to testify at any point. Part of the testimony that you provide is who did the work, even if it was under your supervision. Give me the name of that person. I want to record that down.
Yeah.
So people ultimately can get back to others on your team and your methodology. And that's why always stay focused, do things that allow you to make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing, because people are paying you for service with the intent that you're going to be able to use this data down the road for what they need.
100%, man. And you don't want to be done in by some silly cat meme that
No,
distracted you when you're trying to do
that's
it.
right. That's right. And I've had cats jumping on tables around all my equipment and all that stuff. You try to control the scene as much as possible, but you also have to learn how to go with the flow, right? So
Those darn cats are always getting in the way.
that's right. I'm allergic too, so that
Me
was not
too.
too comfortable for me.
I always find that, the cats can sense when you're allergic to them, because every time I'm around a cat, they immediately run over to me and start trying to rub on my legs and stuff.
Yeah. Well, luckily, for those types of situations, you have the ability sometimes to now use, instead of doing home-based collections, we look for a place where we can meet. Sometimes we rent out like conference rooms at hotels, so it's a little bit different because, yeah, once I get my allergies starting to kick in, it's
Uh,
a mess,
there you go. Those are the stories that you get along the way when you're out doing field work, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh,
We can have many belly laughs over some
sure.
beers, talking about and I'm sure you have it as well. It's just a different scenarios that really give you that experience that you can bring to the table, and also kind of be empathetic a lot to either the examiners that you have working for you and or the clients that hire you, because you understand kind of what can happen here, but also things that may be limitations and other
Right.
scenarios that may come up.
So let's talk a little bit about this symposium that you do every year.
Oh yeah,
You've been doing it with Dr. Henry Lee,
yeah,
which if you don't know who Dr. Henry Lee is, shame on you. Go Google him, look it up. Um, Tell me a little bit about that and how you came about to do that, and what that looks like, the programs, what you strive for every year.
yeah. And I really appreciate it. I remember when I had first done some collaboration with Dr. Lee, you had posted it up on the Investigator toolbox, which is a great resource. But this started probably 4.5 years ago.
Uh,
He was my professor in my undergrad. I went to university. I went to John Jay also
mhm.
in the city. I transferred over to University of New Haven. I went to John Jay right after the TWA 800 plane scenario that happened.
I had graduated maybe a year or two before that.
Okay.
I remember watching on TV, and I was out of college already,
Yeah.
like fresh out of college. I
Oh, nice.
Dr. Lee actually used to teach at John Jay, uh,
Yes.
but he
Yes.
had left before I got there.
Yeah, I wanted to go away to school. I'm from Long Island, and I thought it would be a good opportunity. I fell in love with the Merritt Parkway.
Mhm.
Was going around the autumn, so wound up going to school there. He was a professor of mine in undergrad. He came in and did some lectures. More in grad schools when I kind of connected with him. I went to grad school in California for the University of New Haven. Great guy, world of experience. One of the things that he always said to me was like, hey, if I ever want to do anything with digital evidence, I want to collaborate with you.
Right.
He's written scores of books and never got that opportunity. And then a few years back, I started doing some writing, for different publications. And I approached him and I said, "Hey, would love to work with you on a collaborative article." And he's into the sciences, I'm into the digital. So
Yeah.
this was a way for us to kind of figure out how we wanted to present something. And something struck me so strong in what we were writing together. We were talking, and it's such a comfortable conversation. It's almost like talking to a colleague.
Right.
It went to that professional level already. And he's like, "Oh, you can talk about the digital evidence." And then he goes, "Well, when I think of a cell phone, I'm thinking about trace DNA and fingerprints and all that stuff." So it's a different perspective. He looks at it from the physical evidence side of it. Of course, I look at it from the physical side of it as well, but I'm not so focused in on the, evidence handling is a different take, right? I'm not dusting for fingerprints. I'm not
Right.
doing that. He's looking at it from that standpoint. It was very, very interesting. So we got to talk, and we did some collaboration. And then I said, why don't we kind of do something a little bit larger scale, bring people together? I have a lot of contacts in law enforcement and different investigations that I've done over the years. What's your thought on it? He goes, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
That was 2021. 2022, we had our first one. We bring in people from all over the world to come and speak, different emerging topics. This year, it was blessed to have a few people talking about AI, and then we also spoke about canine ESD. It's those dogs that actually sniff the chemical components within electronics. So
Right.
that was fascinating. Had people talk about the need to have very advanced technology hardware to allow you to churn through massive amount of data, and just really great people. Todd Shipley did a talk on the dark web. So it's really cutting edge topics that people could hear from world-class experts. Every one of these people I've known for so long, and it's just an opportunity for me to present really solid information to people year after year at a very reasonable cost. I mean, I think we do these things for $125 for an 8-hour day. And you're
Wow.
learning from people that have connections with Interpol. Most of the vendors out there have worked with law enforcement agencies. Just terrific people, and they give of their time. I give a nice plaque out for people's time. I have to send them out. I really focus in on acknowledging people's contributions to the industry,
Right.
because their knowledge, giving even an hour of their time, to people, and the breadth of their experience is it's so rewarding for me to have the privilege of including them, and they're so giving of their time when they get asked. And I look forward to continue to do it as long as people make themselves available. And it's a great opportunity for me to continue to collaborate with Dr. Lee and his team at the
Right.
Institute.
That's great, man. I always find it's really cool that you have done all that and you continue to do it. And, obviously keeping an eye on the price. That's one of the
Yeah.
biggest challenges going to, live events. Oh, everything's live again now. Having to choose which, conferences to go to and how you're going to spend your money,
Yeah.
to get the bang for the buck. And, you get to the point where like, okay, I could go to this conference, but I'm going to see my friends. Am I really going to learn
Right.
anything there? Well, maybe not. Maybe I should go to this other conference where they're talking about topics that I haven't, learned out about, and you kind of make that decision. I think what you do is something that's very different,
Yeah.
and for somebody that goes to like a lot of conferences, like that's the stuff that I would find interesting. Like I always say, like there's some conferences I'll go and actually sit down, and there's some conferences where I'll be there, but maybe I'm up in my hotel room doing work, and I'll
Yes.
just come down for the networking events. And that's not to disrespect any of the speakers, but it's just
Yeah.
where I am in my career and managing things and
Sure.
doing
We all,
so.
our time is so precious,
Yeah,
being
yeah,
a dad of three, me going to a conference these days is 3 days away from my family, really, at the
right.
end of the day. It's having to coordinate and speak and travel and all that stuff. I
Yeah,
make it so that the speakers are able to give of their time, not be too inconvenienced. But I also feel like these are things that people can actually learn from and go back to as a resource. I don't know if I shared with you, I keep all the recordings and I give those out to people that attended. So if they attended and they needed to break away for a few minutes, they always have it, available to reference. And I also found the need to use some downtime, that silence time in between sessions, to give vendors an opportunity to share things about products that, as practitioners, we may not know about
sure,
100%. But I had like iPad Rehab. That's where you can send all your damaged cell phones and other types of mobile devices, and they look at it. They're right upstate in New York, or I should say Western New York, because but you send it up there, they look at it, they've got a whole lab, and they can recover information.
yeah,
And they're great people. So these are things are, if you don't go to some of these conferences where I met the people, at least we're putting them out there to allow you to have some exposure. And it's great for everybody involved. And I have universities, not only just University of New Haven, but other universities that encourage their students to attend. And it's just a really nice feeling to be able to give back to the community a little bit,
sure.
in this regard.
Great. Yeah, it's awesome that you do that stuff. So we're gonna
Thank you.
take a quick break, and when we come back, I just want to go over a little more like trends and
Yeah.
things within the digital universe. You talked about AI before, but there's so much
Oh,
more
yeah.
to
Yes.
and just kind of take an overview look of the trend in the digital investigation world, and see what's hot and what's out there and what's going on. So
Sure.
everybody sit tight, and we will be right back.
Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Managing a team of investigators just got easier with TrackOps, the all-in-one case management software. Are you ready to enhance case flows and drive efficiency? TrackOps offers powerful management and coordination tools to streamline workflows and communication, all designed to keep your team synchronized and focused on the task at hand. With TrackOps, you can easily distribute workloads, track individual performance, and ensure deadlines are met. Plus, the TrackOps mobile app allows investigators to access case activities on the go. And the TrackOps video app allows for simple and consistent timestamping, all included at no extra cost. Start streamlining your investigation process today. Visit trackops.com for a free 15-day trial and experience the power of efficient team management. TrackOps, empowering teams, simplifying management. Satellite Investigations has launched its new website full of great new content. Matt and his team have released some great informative blogs. Make sure you log in to LinkedIn and follow Satellite Investigations for the latest content. Over the past year, our industry has been the target of foreign governments and agencies that have attempted to recruit unsuspecting investigators to gather intelligence or immediate expatriates. PI Perspectives is teaming up with the Federal Bureau of Investigations to get the word out about this ongoing crisis. If you've been contacted by an individual or company that might seem suspicious, please contact the FBI at tips.fbi.gov. You can also contact the New York field office at 212-384-1000 to report suspicious activity in any state. The link is also in the show notes. Even if you completed a job and it still doesn't sit right with you, you can report this activity. The only way to stop this trend is to work together. So let's do it.
And welcome back, everybody. This is Matt Spaier with PI Perspectives. We're here with Rob Freed from Page One Incorporated. There's a new venture for Rob, everything digital forensics, looking at computers, looking at cell phones, all that stuff that we think we know how to do, but we really don't. So
Yeah.
welcome back to the program.
Thanks very much, Matt. I appreciate again being here and being able to share a little bit about what I've been up to and what's going on in the industry.
Sure.
Always great to reconnect.
Right. So we had talked about the symposium, and your vision on that, which was awesome. But let's talk about trends within the digital community here for digital investigations. What are
Yeah,
some of the things that you're seeing now that AI has kind of been around for a little bit? The
yeah.
whole deep fake thing has been around for a bit. Um, what are some of the trends and new things that you're starting to see?
Yeah, AI is definitely almost every conference that we go to. You definitely hear, and everybody wants to talk about it. It's definitely useful. I personally like to see what type of information is given back to me. Like, for example, I've written a few books. I take that content and I see what it does with my content exclusively, how
Right.
it would answer questions. It's pretty wild. There's actually a podcast that you can do on Google LM. So I'm taking some small snippets. That stuff is very useful. However, it's still really important to understand how you would look at something from an investigative standpoint,
Sure.
because the human mind uh, doesn't hallucinate the way that AI would, and potentially look at something a little bit different. I mean, our investigative skill sets are based on experience. I spoke about the experience of being able to relate to people and to look at things a certain way and to scope out a project in a certain way. AI is being used a lot to help lawyers right now prepare witnesses to testify and or come up with questions. It has a place from an investigator's standpoint. I think you can definitely use it, but use it with caution. Be able to understand, what the value is, and maybe able to give you some additional insight, some different perspective.
Right.
Always go back to your human experience to be able to uh, really connect the dots as much as possible in that regard.
100%. So, yeah, and if you've been listening to any of my episodes the last few months, you'll see that my opinion on AI is that it's necessary, but not in the way that you think, right?
Right.
It mirrors with what you were just saying, right? So using it more as quality control
Right.
for us to produce a better product than for it to answer a question that may or may not be the correct answer.
Yes.
So we just refocus it where you give it the answers, you give it the task, and you say, "This is what I'm trying to do. How do I get better at doing it?" Right? And it gives you, "Oh, you need to do this. You need to do that. You need to ask this. Make sure this is in there. Make sure you're doing with that." And that's been the passion of mine. Buddy Jericho's a guy who's like really into the whole AI world.
Sure.
And him and I've had some great conversations. Wouldn't it be cool if we could build this or do this or it could work this way? And man, Buddy's all over it. Like, I'm still
Yeah.
getting phone calls from him. Hey, what we were talking about, let's build that out, man. Let's have some fun with it. Let's see if we could do it. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
There's definitely some great things out there. I mean, I'm personally even wearing the Meta glasses. I can tell you that they're dead right now. The battery doesn't last too long. I have the old version, right? There's a new version out. Um, but you look at what's available here, and you look at the information that's stored on here. If I take a video, I can look at what the video is showing. If I ask it a question, it will actually take a picture and store that picture on my devices. Also record what I'm asking. Same thing with these digital assistants. I'm afraid to say the wake up word because it will trigger the
Right.
device to recognize. But You can even hear the people's voices when they ask questions of these things. So it does have a place, right?
Right.
But I think the trends right now are, still with these technologies, the watches that are tracking your movements, those wearables, the phones are still very, very big right now. The difference between an advanced logical versus a full file system collection on cell phones, being able to get into those encrypted messaging apps like Signal, Telegram, has been a significant pain point a lot of times when we're doing collections, to now being able to extract,
Right.
very similar to what law enforcement has access to, being able to unlock, phones that are part of a litigation or used by corporations to help understand, what data is on those phones, also potentially recovering deleted data if it's out there.
Right.
Somebody had explained to me the transformation of the industry from where, like before, when we just did cell phone collections, we were tailgaters in the parking lot, while the cops were in the stadium enjoying the game. And now
Right.
everybody's able to enjoy the game together. But one of the things that I always caution people about is when you have this technology, it's more information to sift through for the examiner, for the client to be able to see what's relevant, but it also could be seen as a potential over collection because you're getting more than you would normally get before. So there has to be a really good vetting process. And that's why I consult with people versus just saying, hey, default is now get everything off the phone, because there needs to be a real use case for it, right? You definitely don't want to extract more than you need. There are forensic processes that are happening here. So you're always going to get more than an iTunes backup and things like that in terms of metadata that comes out with these collections. But you want to be conscientious of how much data you actually are getting and if it's relevant for your cases.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point. I almost in my head, I can see like, okay, so how do how is my adversary going to come at me? Right. How are they going to try and can
Yeah.
trip us up or just make us look bad? And it's, you can totally see the argument. Oh,
Yeah.
you're just like a spy agency, just collecting everything. What are you doing with that data that you're not using? Are you reselling it? Are you doing this?
Yeah.
Are you doing that? Like this is
Yeah.
invasion of privacy. This is the Patriot Act all over again. Like I could just hear all that stuff.
you you bring up the point of like industry trends. One of those things that's not even related to the technology is just the people you're collecting from are more aware
Yeah.
of what a lot of these tools can do because they have access to the internet, they have access to chat gpt, they have access to all these different things, and like, hey, what's coming off these devices? So the caliber of people are more dialed into things.
Right.
However, you also have hypersensitivity to your point. Where's my data going? What are you doing with my data? Do you really need that? Hey, my doctor's phone number is in there. I have other information. How do you sift through all this stuff? Personally, I look at so many people's data that, I just try to find what I need and move on. Like there's none of that funny stuff of being able, hey, I have access. Not interested. I just need to do what I need to do. Give people. I have a lot of other things on my plate to handle, and take it very serious. Put it on encrypted media. Data is encrypted at rest. Being able to have that chain of custody. Again, focus in on what you're being asked to do. Do that really well and make sure that the data that you are collecting is going to be admissible and there's not going to be any opportunities to poke holes in what you did.
Yeah. I think, staying on the scope of what the assignment is,
Yeah,
is something that's really important. I mean, that's researcher 101. I
that's right.
a lot of people that get into research and to say, hey, like this is interesting to me. I want to learn how to do this. Right. And then they start getting into it and they end up spending, way more time than they need to answer a particular problem.
Right.
I think they're like the the new researcher, right?
Yeah.
Go find out who owns this property, right? Simple. Go give me a
Yeah.
deed, right? Oh, but
Yes.
I saw this, I saw that, and then I went to that, and then it was over here, and next thing I know, it's 3 hours later.
Right.
And did you know that there was a mortgage on that property? Did you know this and that? Okay, but I don't care about any of that. I asked you to get a deed. That's all. I care about who owns it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
People are aware of all the fluff that can be put into these things, but really the
Right.
experience is when you can give people that information that they can just cut and paste and say, you know what, Matt got me exactly what I needed to do to put it into a message, because we all need to answer to somebody,
Right.
right? And my job is to give people just the information they need to move it forward,
Right.
not, like we can go into a lot of detail, but give you the information, those nuggets of information to move the ball forward in a way that's quick and efficient, defensible,
Yeah.
and everybody can be on their way.
Well, just understanding, our roles in all of this
Yeah.
investigation and all that, we're part of an assembly line, right?
Yes.
We're just one part. That's it. It's like I'm the guy who bolts down the seat, and when I'm
Yeah.
done bolting down the seat, I gotta do it quickly, and I gotta get it to the next person, and their job is to
That's
put
right.
the steering column in. Like that kind of stuff. And that's the mindset that you have that, hey, I'm not going to try and build the whole car because I wasn't hired to
Right.
do that.
Right.
And really kind of embracing your role in everything, because we all have
Right.
a role in what
That's
we
right.
do, and just kind of understanding that. I think those are the people that are successful. Those are the people that probably have an easier time in court,
Yes.
testifying of, just the facts, right?
That's right.
That's what he says, right? Just the facts, ma'am, right?
That's right. That's right.
And
And when you're asked questions like that on the stand, about why you did this and why you did that, it becomes more of a challenge when you have those additional components in there that had nothing to do
yeah,
with what you were being asked, but because you thought it was valuable for what you needed, but
thank
it
you.
it just adds to the complexity of finding the important information.
I remember I was testifying once, and this one attorney was like, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do this? Right? They're asking me all this stuff. And my answer was the same every single time. I
Yes.
wasn't instructed to do that. I wasn't instructed to do that. I wasn't instructed to do that.
Right.
Get to the point where he's like, okay, I get your point. It's like, I'm telling you about what I was hired to do and why I did it. I'm not giving you opinion on, why I didn't do what I wasn't asked to do, or whether or not I should have done that. Cause I think that's what he was going for,
Yeah. And
you're the expert. You should have done that also, right? He was trying to bait me
there
going there.
there's so many opportunities to have that mindset these days where somebody says, hey, I've got a computer, so I go and I pick up the computer from your office, Matt, and then I'm like, well, you have a mobile device like a tablet, right? Yeah, I do. Oh, did you ever use that and sync it up to your computer? So you have to have, it's almost like that Columbo, oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Oh, but you have to think of the totality of what you're looking to accomplish.
Right.
And if I image the computer and I examine the computer and I see that your iPad was connected in some way and has some information that there's some collaborative events between the two, then I'll say, I need to look at your
Right.
iPad, but you got to do this systematically because there's got to be a reason then to just do everything because it's a mountain of information to sift
Yeah,
through.
it's the methodology, man. I
Yeah.
was having a conversation with somebody about whether or not it's appropriate to take photos for a case with your
Yeah.
cell phone. Like, oh yeah, just do it with my cell phone. It's better than the camera that I have, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, how much do you love your phone?
So here's
Because
here's and I
they may take that phone from you as evidence, right?
right, but even that. So what happens after you take that photo? and you send it to somebody else to use it, and the metadata changes off that photo, and the EXIF information, gets stripped out of it. It loses its clarity, its formatting, all that stuff. People don't realize how convenient that is, but how horrible it could be if that's the only copy that you have.
Evidentiary wise, yeah, it's a problem. So you bring up a really good point, Rob. I had something with this recently, right?
Yeah,
And it was a lesson that I learned because I didn't know, right?
yeah,
Thank God I had the backup for it, but I just didn't know. So, we take accident site photos. We do a lot of photographic evidence, right? And
yeah.
that evidence ends up into a case management system, right?
Okay.
So our particular case management system, when you upload your photo or your video, whatever digital file you upload to them, guess what happens? I know
Happens.
you know what
Today's
happens.
date.
The
Yeah,
metadata date on it changes to the date that you actually uploaded,
that's right.
right? So we had a defense attorney that was questioning when we took that particular photos of that evidence, and I was like, oh, no problem. It's in the case management system. Let's just pull it down, and it's right there. And we pull it down. We go, uh-oh.
That's right.
Dad on that is saying the dates that we uploaded in here. So, okay, let me go now figure it out. And I'm having conversations. I call the customer service over at the case manager. Hey, this is what's going on here. Are you aware of this?
Yeah,
I don't even think they were aware of it because, like, they're like, we got to have our developers look into it. So I said, yeah, this is probably an issue. We want to see if we can get it preserved.
yeah.
Thankfully,
Hmm.
thankfully, the original documents. I'm one of those guys that likes to save things and the same thing in different places.
On
Just
upload, it should
I'm,
be,
I'm
you should
terrible.
preserve the metadata as much as possible,
Yeah,
hash the files so that you have a digital fingerprint.
yeah,
The best way that I can tell you, because I wrote a chapter in a book on low speed accident collision many, many years ago. But it's basically trying to authenticate what you did. You buy a smart card, you put it into a camera like this, put the pictures on that smart card, take the smart card out, make sure you're saving to the smart card, not internally, and then image that smart card.
yeah.
And then you have all the dates and times according to how that reflects on that device.
Right.
The phone's out of the equation. You're not going to get subpoenaed to turn in your phone,
Yeah,
or court ordered to turn in your phone. You may have commingled data there. It just becomes a little bit of a cluster.
yeah. And nobody wants to see pictures of your kids going through all
No,
all
no,
that stuff.
no.
Yeah. So that was a good lesson. And then you then got to explain that to your client. You're like, why am I being
Yes.
charged for this? Why am I being charged for that? Well,
Yeah,
do you want this to be done in a proper way? Should you need to, authenticate it later, or do you want
sure,
a cheaper route? And nine
sure.
times out of 10, that like, because it's not exorbitant, you're just passing
And
along the cost, right?
how many times have you configured your settings on your camera on your phone to allow it to take a date and time setting, look at the shutter speed, look at, what filters are being used? Because any manipulation,
Yeah.
I had a Google Pixel phone. Google was like automating, all these enhancements.
Yes. Yep.
And, what does that do to that changes the
Everything.
sunlight?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's not what the human eye would see, right? So
no, no.
it's always like, when I got into this business and doing it, when you're doing a progression for somebody,
Yeah.
how they were walking down the street, when they fell, especially if it's a low light case, right?
Yes,
You want to be able to capture it the way a human eye would capture it. What does that mean? No fisheye lenses, no filters, none of that
that's right.
nonsense, right?
Yeah.
It just down and dirty,
More
straightforward.
importantly, where does that photo go? Is it local on your phone, or is it now going into your personal iCloud or Google Drive?
Right.
Right? I mean, there's just so many things. Oh, and then you share that with your wife and your kids, and now that it do
Isn't it
it the
true
right
that you
way.
can't guarantee that this photo hasn't been manipulated in some way? All
That's
you're doing
right.
is creating
And
reasonable doubt and whatever,
and
like,
then all copies have been expunged,
right.
so there's a lot you look, luckily I still am able to have a good night's sleep at night. but there's so many things that we can think about. And, we definitely are in a world that's a lot of fun right now with all the technology and innovations. But sometimes the simpler ways are more easier to explain and or appreciate when we're dealing with this so much technology at our fingertips.
Right. And sometimes you get a very impatient judge and they don't want to hear any of that crap. They're
No,
just like, all right, stop with your games.
yeah,
Right.
they're
I
like,
understand we're going counselor, but yes, this is being admitted. And they're like, knock it
why,
off.
right? Why are you using a forensic program to do this? All you needed was a text messages. Well, there's a methodology that we would want to follow to make sure that the chain of custody all goes back to your methodology, defensibility,
Yeah.
and being able to speak to what you did and how you did it for your clients. Because if you're just using anything off the shelf these days, people are going to wonder, like, what does that tool do? If you don't know that and you're not prepared to answer that you're not doing a good job for your client. You're not doing a good job for yourself, because you're on the stand. You're basically stating what you did, but not knowing all the facts of what that tool actually does.
Yeah. That could definitely be problematic for you. And, it's the blessing and the curse, right?
Yeah.
Everything's so easy now, right? But there's a cost for that, and it's
Yes.
all connected to the intertube.
Yeah. You got to
Like,
be prepared at all times to defend what you did
yeah,
and explain it, no matter how long ago it may have happened.
sure. Good times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's why we stay connected, and we support one another in our different specialty areas, and that's the power of networking. That's also the beauty of
Sure.
that symposium, is to see over time how many people you can connect with. Somebody asked me yesterday, like, how do I build up a network? I said it happens over many years.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You have to have that connection. You and I know each other for many years.
Yeah.
And, for you to come to me with a question, I'm going to make sure I answer it to the best of my knowledge, because I respect what your knowledge is, you respect mine. And that type of rapport that you have with somebody allows you to work together, and share experiences and things like that. That's invaluable.
100%. Yeah, this is why you got to go to the conferences and the events, and you got to build
100%.
relationships and all that. And I look back, and like LinkedIn's a great place. Like when you start
Yeah.
with it, all right, I've got one follower, two followers,
Right.
a couple followers. Next thing you know, I feel like when you hit the 1,000 mark, that's when it
Yeah.
really starts picking up. I don't know if it's an algorithm thing or something, but all of a sudden, it's much easier to get people to connect with, because you're connected with so many other people that they
Right.
may be connected with. It's like,
Right.
oh, this guy Matt sending me a friend request. He knows Rob Fried. Rob's a good guy. I like Rob. He knows what he's doing. Rob
Yeah.
wouldn't be friends with anyone that's suspect. That's
Yeah.
like terrible. So
But
I'll accept that friend request.
one of the things too is to be present, like you said, to show up, to be active in all these organizations,
Yeah,
because if you're not, then people don't really know what you do. And so when I go to organizations, and like, I've written some books, I put some content out there, I give people nuggets of information to say, hey, look, you know I like sharing my experience with people,
sure.
and give them an understanding as to what drives me, what I'm passionate about. Because if you can feel the passion, you doing even this podcast, of being able to connect people that over the years, and just keep in touch and do that, it allows us to continue to develop good rapport. And there's always going to be an opportunity to bring somebody else in, and we're all trying to do things to help our clients, to better our businesses, to
Sure.
even better our knowledge. And this is just great opportunities to do. And I thank you, as always, for the opportunity to come here and to connect with you again, but
Oh,
also just share
that's easy.
some things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, having you on and chatting about this stuff, that's easy,
Yeah.
and what it comes down to is, yeah, I think everybody in this industry like should have a goal. If you want to be successful, you want to be a subject matter expert, right? There's
Yeah.
want something within the industry you want to be known as the guy or the girl to contact for that, right?
Sure.
And I think that you've carved yourself in that way, and I feel like I've carved a little niche for myself as far as just being, the show here, being, out there, that
Sure.
people know that I know people.
That's
So that's
right.
my talent. I know people. I don't know how to do anything particularly well. I mean, whatever. You can make some arguments, but I'm not going to sit here and say I'm
Yeah.
great at one
Nope.
particular thing. But
But within minutes, you can connect the dots.
yeah,
And when investigations happen, people need that level of responsiveness. And I think that's where I've seen the most success for myself is people know where to find me and I know who to call.
yeah,
And you've connected those dots so many times for me.
yeah.
That's invaluable. I mean, there's resources that you have that nothing beats the human side of it to be like, hey, you likely may know somebody because of your network. Let me connect you with my network, and it's a great thing that starts magic happens.
Right. It comes down to legacy, right? What do you want to be remembered as?
Yeah,
Um, and that's something that, it wasn't initially in my career, but I reached a point in my career. I was like, okay, I've done what I can do within this small little
yeah,
bubble in New York that of personal injury investigations. Like I feel like I kind of got that down here, and now I gotta challenge myself. I gotta
yeah,
step out of my comfort zone, and I gotta really expand and kind of get out there. And that's when I started on a national scale, started going to conferences and started talking to people and, understanding how other people, like very successful people, do things, right? I
right,
made it a point to like identify people that had big success in our industry and just
yeah,
spend time with them and say, hey man, like what does your day look like? What do you do?
right,
I want to understand that, because maybe I want to do that, or maybe I don't want to do that. And I see what
right,
you're doing. I'm going, wow, okay, that's an option, but it's not for me. Or maybe I take some of those ideas and I just make them my own.
yeah,
Or I'm not duplicating them, but I'm doing my version of it. And I
right,
feel like that's where I am with my career right now. I know
yeah,
tons of like really successful investigators. I'm not trying to be them. I'm trying to take, the things I see that work with them and
yeah,
and use that. And and I know well enough when someone calls me and says, hey, I need a cell phone extracted, you know and I say, well, I don't know anybody, I'm sorry, because
right,
that was the conversation 15 years ago.
right,
Oh, it'd be really great if I could help you with that, but I'm sorry, I can't. Now it's like, I'm not the guy to do it, but I'm going to connect you,
yeah,
you know
absolutely,
and see if it's a good fit and see if it's there, and then my client's like, oh wow, okay, my investigator knows a lot of people, right?
right, right. You're
And
that trusted source that no matter what it is, you pick up the phone and you connect the dots for people. And that's a great networking kind of benefit that from doing these symposiums, from being at meetings until 10, 11 o'clock at night and getting home.
yeah,
The benefit is not only just the friendships, but the breadth of experience that people have across the board, because we all have different specialty areas. And
100%.
when you can bring all that together for people that are asking you for help, it goes a long way.
Yeah, my passion is problem solving, whether it
Yeah,
be for a case or for just connecting. I love the whole connecting thing, like uh, I've got a a whole, but like in the New York City, like I got a different group of friends that do different things, you know,
yeah,
but they're tight groups, right? If you need somebody to
yeah,
do this is your guy. If you need someone to do that, like this is your guy. And finding myself being a part of that group,
yeah,
and then being a part of this group and being part of that group and all that, like that's how I build my relationships out. It can be
yeah,
exhausting at times. I mean, people see my social medias and whatever, they're like, Jesus, you're all over the place, you're doing everything.
yeah,
But what am I doing? I'm like, I'm cultivating my leads and my friendships and
right,
business. Like
yeah,
9 times out of 10, if I'm going out, yeah, I'm having fun, but it's all business related,
right.
you know? And that's my life.
Good.
That's how I chose to do things.
Spend your time and for the relationships that really matter. And I really appreciate being one of those people that you find purpose in connecting, because I feel the same way. I think you and I do a good job of keeping in touch with each other,
Yeah.
and making good use of our time together.
Yeah. And what you won't see online is the time I spend with my family.
That's right.
That's private time.
Yeah,
Don't need
that's
anyone
right.
to know about any of that stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, you'll catch a glimpse of some of my kids here and there or whatever, or I'm tagging along to a sporting event or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like there's a time and place for all that stuff. But don't for a second, I'm not motivated to provide for my family. And you're the same way.
Yes, I do.
Basing your decisions on where you're going to be employed
Yes.
for what you want, but for
Right.
what's best for your family, right?
Yep.
Those are the
Because
people I
there's
want to
nothing,
surround myself with.
yeah, there's nothing like a good feeling where you can tuck your kid in at night and just be around if they're curious about even what you're doing during the day. It's a different dynamic, but I'll take it for right now because I'm not going to get that time back with them.
Yeah, and you'll see like as they're getting older, because I'm a couple of years ahead of you with the
Yeah.
kids. As they start to really understand what you do,
Yeah.
and they find interest in it, and they start to maybe dip their toes
Definitely.
into doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool, right? And the entrepreneurship behind it, right? The hey, daddy,
Yeah.
owns a business or runs a business or is an executive at a business. Like you're setting up that's generational. You're
That's
setting
right.
up those winnings. That behavior to replicate itself down the line. I feel like I'm doing business coaching here. I got to stop.
Yeah.
But
No, it's
like
great though, because
that's really what's
that's
happening.
that's what we're doing for the next generation. My son's always looking at, what's going on with computers, and, when I go and I travel, he sees sometimes I put information out there. It's really important to share your experiences, not only with your network, but also with your kids, so they appreciate even taking a ride into the city. Look what dad has to do to get into the city,
Yeah.
living all the way out here on Long Island.
Yeah, that's the world I'm in right now. Like
Yeah.
the work day, which is it's fun, and you'll get to the point where maybe one day one of your sons comes up and says, "Hey, I read that in the book. Why did you put that?
Oh
What
yeah.
was the reasoning behind that? I
I'm
want
gonna say
to."
which one? Which one? Oh.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, or he says, you're really wrong on that. It really should be
Yes,
this way. Like not to correct you, but you kind of made a mistake on that.
that's right. You plugged it into Chat GPT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always say, that let my ceilings be my kids' floors.
There you go.
That's really the way I try and live my life. I try and
Cool.
provide opportunities for them to succeed,
Yeah.
make sure that they're doing the any kind of succeeding they're doing on their own efforts and nothing that I'm
Yeah.
doing for them, but I'm just opening the door for them,
Right.
which is good. And there are a lot of like really good investigators that have the same mindset with their family. And I get excited, when I'm talking to
Yeah.
the guys I know like that just, you could see it. And it's very, very cool. Really.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving your time, for doing great stuff like this. It gives me an opportunity to, connect up with your audience of PIs, being able to go to events and,
Yeah.
do things where we share a little bit about, what's going on in our individual worlds, and hopefully, that will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I think data forensics is a very big untapped market in the investigative world.
Yes.
It's starting to, there are more and more people doing it, but like 10 years ago, there really wasn't that much that you could learn about this stuff. And you got people like Amber Schroeder
Yeah.
out there that starts, hey, Parabin, this is where you go to learn about this stuff. You got
Yes.
the guys that do the bug sweeping down south there in Nashville, the
Yeah.
RFI guys, where they're training, they're doing, all that stuff. Like these are opening up other pathways for investigators to do different things, and you're saying, wow, okay, I don't just have to go do matrimonial investigations. I can do other stuff.
No,
I don't have to just do process serving. Who wants to go
right.
serve a paper on somebody? It's necessary. And there are people that do it that are great at doing it, but there's so many other things that we can do as well, right?
And when you can tap into it just because maybe you have your own niche, a guy, and it's just that trust, almost as if that person's going to treat that situation just like you would treat it if you were to give that level of service, in that area.
Yeah,
So it's finding really good people that you can trust, and that trust comes through spending time and understanding the passion that you have, being in many organizations, being able to be present different places, but also just being a good person too. A lot of that is reflected in communication styles and things like that, and I've always appreciated the PI world is really good for that,
yeah,
where everybody is kind of in a different niche and very supportive of one another.
sure. So we've got subject matter experts, right? That's really what you want to focus
Yes.
on being. And if you can do that, then you're going to find success. Find your niche and
Yeah.
do it. So, all right, we're going to wind this down. I feel like we got to where we needed to be, but we took a detour.
Yeah, no, it's always good. These are real conversations because it's
Sure.
all about life and
Uh,
what's important to all of us and how we spend our time and what we enjoy. So it's always a pleasure.
I am very excited for you in these new opportunities. And
Thank you, Matt. I
uh,
appreciate it. It's a big step to always make a move, but I like the excitement. It's part of the entrepreneurial spirit for me, and also pushing myself to continue to do good things, build things, be successful in terms of networking and leveraging that network, to be part of those things. So I can't do it alone, and it's kind words and people that that help you get to good places, and I think I'm in a good place right now.
sure. Okay, so let's plug the company one more time
Yep.
and how
Yeah.
people can find you.
Yeah, it's Page One Incorporated, www.pageonelegal.com, or free at pageonelegal.com. Happy to always pick up the phone and provide you any type of support you need.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much for jumping on, and thank you everyone for listening. And we'll catch everybody next time on the next episode. Take care.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks to Rob for coming on and talking shop. This industry is changing at a lightning fast pace. Thanks to 4 Pillars and Scope Now for sponsoring our podcast. Additional thanks to Track Ops and the PI Institute of Education for sponsoring the show. Also, don't forget about investigatorstoolbox.com, where you can type in Perspectives 50 to save $50 when you join. Please also follow Matt and Satellite Investigations on LinkedIn. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd like your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back next week with a new show, so make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.